I'm Carol Angela Davis. Welcome to Impact News. You know what? Arkansas State University is a mess, people. You hear me? Apparently, a black student's interview with a local news channel was interrupted with shouts of white power. Yes, you heard me correctly. It happened during an interview with a local ABC news station with students yelling white power as they drove by. The nerve of them. Students say this is part of a much larger problem there on campus. They say it includes the targeting of black sororities and fraternities and students posting negative messages on the messenger app Yip Yap. Now, the chancellor of the university, her name is Kelly Damphouse, called the behavior of whites unacceptable and disgraceful. But we'll see what she actually does about the problem, okay? Because this is clearly a bold act of white supremacy. Black fraternities and sororities targeting our sororities. Please give me a break. The chancellor's leadership has either been negligent or she is simply unaware, and either one is a very serious problem on that campus. All right, it was the Yik Yak post that targeted the black fraternities and sororities, with posts telling black students to get back on the boat and that black is a disease. It's a disease you wish you had, but you can't be us, dear. Hey, don't be a hater. If black is a disease, I sure am glad I got it. How about that? All right. The university's chief communications officer called the students and the comments outliers, but are they? I don't think so. I disagree. They are mighty comfortable in their racism for this to be an outlier. I mean, when you go in front of a local news TV interview, drive by shouting white power, one thing you know for sure, that interview is A, being recorded, and B, going to be seen all over town. That doesn't sound like an outlier to me. That sounds like a very comfortable act of white supremacy. And I will tell you something, it also sounds like an entitled and extremely insecure kid who is comfortable on campus in their racism. Get it together, Arkansas State University. And if not, hey folks, don't send your kids to that stupid school. I'm Carol Angela Davis. Stay with me. We begin with your headlines from all around the neighborhood and all around the world. First and foremost, why are they lying about how many black and Afro-Latino children go missing every year? We'll tell you that story. Plus, good news for people from Cameroon. Then please tell me how a math book makes whites in Florida uncomfortable. Please tell me they're not that weak. Also, a black member of parliament in Ukraine. We'll tell you that story. Then climate change in the Caribbean. Plus, there's money out there to help you run for local office, so get ready to run, y'all. And also, Michelle Obama's brother has had to sue a school in Wisconsin for racist acts towards his children. Yes, people, stay with me. Advocates for missing black children say the FBI's missing children data is misleading and does a disservice to black youth. The FBI says about 346,000 children went missing in the United States in 2020, and about a third of those were black. But the problem is the FBI data combines white and Hispanic children, which means the Afro-Hispanic children who are missing are not included in the black numbers when many of them identify as black. All right, that means the Hispanic community is denied the true picture of its missing, as is the black community. It harms blacks because 24% of Hispanics classify themselves as Afro-Latino. And advocates say the FBI data does suggest that white youth outnumber missing blacks by more than 71,000. But this is not true, because when you really look at the data, black missing children outnumber all other groups, and 60% of the 30,000 newly reported missing cases in 2020, do you know they were black kids? That's scary, okay? It's very alarming because, as you know, African Americans only make up about 14% of the U.S. population. So how do we make up 60% of the 30,000 children who went missing? Why are they targeting us? And why is the FBI not doing anything about it? Because you can't do anything about it if you don't have the data right. Reclassify those numbers and get that together. All right, in the Hispanic community, there is an additional problem because many people do not report their missing because they are fears of deportation, many immigrants. So that needs to also change. I can imagine your child goes missing and you can't report it, but you can go ahead and do work and pay into the economy. Okay, America, there you go again. All right, in immigration news, Homeland Security is temporarily stopping the deportation of people from Cameroon. That's right, folks. DHS is saying the reason is because of extreme violence in the region. Cameroon it's making them very unsafe for Cameroonians to return home. We should also tell you that Cameroonians are getting an 18-month reprieve. They can also apply for work permits here in the United States. Cameroon now becoming the 14th country eligible for temporary protected status. That's what the Cameroonians now have, temporary protected status, okay? All right, we should tell you that about 200,000 El Salvadorians also have temporary protected status, along with people from Myanmar, Haiti, Venezuela, and Ukraine. All of them now have temporary protected status. In other news, looking at ignorance in America, where Ron DeSantis is getting the crown for being the king. Go Ron! We know who he is, the Republican governor of Florida, Republican being the operative word there. All right, the Florida Department of Education has rejected more than 40% of suggested math textbooks. Come on, y'all. For attempting to indoctrinate students. And you know what? The highest number of books rejected were for kids in grade levels K through 5. What happened, Ron? You saw some people of color in the pictures of the math books? Because let's face it, folks, math is math, okay? The numbers are what they are. He is so sick. He is so afraid of people of color, so insecure. He doesn't have any confidence in himself. I'm talking about Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, in case you're wondering. All right, now we should also tell you that TheHill.com, here's what they say when describing Florida standards, TheHill.com, thanks TheHill.com. They say that they call the standards rigorous standards, they're focusing heavily on math and language arts and designed to prepare students for success in college and beyond. Stop drinking the Kool-Aid, TheHill.com. Let me tell you something. There is nothing rigorous in education about deleting things that you are scared of. Nothing. It's called ignorance, not education. All right. In international news, he's an Olympic wrestler and Ukraine's first black member of parliament, and he says Ukraine is not a racist country. Though his name, just so you know, is Zan Beliniak. Now, he does acknowledge that there are some instances where there is some racism, which we already know that because we all saw the viral videos, right? You remember them. They showed African migrants in Ukraine being denied entry on trains and at borders. And when the white Ukrainians were allowed to go through, they all were fleeing the same Russian forces, people. Beliniak represents a small community of Afro-Ukrainians that live in the country, which I find quite interesting. There are also thousands, as we know, of African students across Ukrainian universities. Now, just in case you're wondering, Beliniak was born to a Ukrainian mother and a Rwandan father. But when he was young, when Beliniak was young, his dad was a pilot who died in the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda, and his mother raised him as a single mom there in Kyiv. Interesting. All right, let's move on. Let's look at climate change, where experts say a mysterious massive die-off of sea urchins in the Caribbean is very alarming. That's because it could cause those frail coral reefs to eventually die. And the coral reefs, folks, are very important for two things, and mainly two things. Number one, in preserving the marine biodiversity, and also in being able to protect the islands from the onslaught of hurricanes. Okay, we need them. But experts say since early this year, the oceans have been simply littered with sea urchin spines. The sea urchins have been found dead floating in the water. And they say that these sea urchin deaths are happening in Antigua, St. Lucia, Dominica, Jamaica, St. Vincent, Saba, and the U.S. Virgin Islands, and Cozumel in Mexico. In politics in our democracy, a Democratic group is recruiting thousands, and that could be you, thousands of candidates for election administration offices through 2024. They're preparing for the next presidential election, while the Republicans, all they do is cheat. All right, the group Run for Something wants you to run, so get busy running, baby. The group is raising $80 million to help support you. All right, they're going to spend that money recruiting and supporting candidates who are running for local election offices. These offices oversee election administration all across the country. There are 50 state elections, 3,000 county elections, thousands more municipal elections. There is a spot for you, so you can run. The program is dubbed Clerk Work. It's going to support more than 5,000 candidates. They are vying for positions in 35 states. It includes all states where where voters vote for election representatives. So please get ready to run. We need you. We need you. All right, then Texas Republican Governor Greg Abbott. How do you spell ignorant? Texas Republican Governor Greg Abbott. Okay. Texas Republican Governor Greg Abbott was forced to reverse his utterly ridiculous Mexican truck inspection plan as drivers blocked bridges. Between the backlash and the terrible impact on the economy, it included holding up food supplies to the U.S. Governor Abbott, stop. We're actually not that scary. We are very competent, so we get it, but we're actually not that scary. Don't be so insecure, Governor Abbott, okay? Abbott tried to use tighter inspections of basically tire pressure as his wedge issue. Now, Governor Abbott has made an about-face, totally lifted the restrictions, of course, because they made no sense in the first place. According to the Texas International Produce Association, about $150 million worth of fruit and vegetables, all of it was stalled at the border, okay? That included limes, that included tomatoes, mangoes, cucumbers. The White House has condemned Abbott's policy, saying that it has brought significant disruptions to supply chains, and we also know it's also caused inflation. So you need to stop it. They're going to blame us, but they need to stop. All right, now let's look at your health, where the Food and Drug Administration is investigating reports that consumers became sick with diarrhea, nausea, stomach pain, and vomiting after eating Lucky Charms cereal made by General Mills. The reports are shared on iwaspoisoned.com. You might want to check that out, and they're from all across the United States. Now, even so, the company said it has not found evidence of a link. Well, where do you think that came from, okay? That money, boy, that money reigns supreme. So far, neither the FDA nor General Mills has issued a recall for the cereal. Lucky Charms has been around since 1964. We're going to end with the American Institution, the very unfortunate American Institution of Racism. Oh, America's so good at that. Former First Lady Michelle Obama's brother, Craig Robinson, and his wife, they're suing a private school in Wisconsin for kicking their sons out over racism. Get this, folks. The private school is in Wisconsin. It's called the University School of Milwaukee. It's a private school for grades K through 12. Brother Craig says the school kicked his two sons out after Craig Robinson and his wife complained about bias in the curriculum. This was during the pandemic when they were doing virtual learning. They filed 2 reports to school administrators detailing what they felt were examples of racist stereotypes and bias embedded into their lessons and their homework assignments. And shortly thereafter, the Robinsons got a letter saying their children, excuse me, ages 11 and 9 were being dismissed. Boy, I tell you, white America, you really need to stop. We are not that scared. Yes, we're smart. Yes, we're well educated. Yes, we are survivors, and we don't play. You really are scared of us. You need to stop. But check this out. They can say, I don't want to read Toni Morrison because she said something about a slave. And they can get rid of all the books all over the whole state of Florida if they want to. But when we complain about this racism that we are subject to every day, and our children in these classrooms, they kick the kids out. That's how sick they are. Led by, as I say, 2 governors, Texas and Florida, who are just pathetically insecure when it comes to people of color. All right, so guess what? America hasn't changed, but we're working on changing it. I'm Carol Angela Davis. Those are your stories. Thanks for joining me. Stay with me. I've got Missing. I've got Ask Dr. K, the International Report, Crypto Combos, and your Slay Word. Be right back. It is time for the Slay Word of the Week, and the word this week is bemuse, B-E-M-U-S-E, bemuse. And guess what? It's a verb. That means it's an action word. It gives action to the sentence, okay? The origin of bemuse is 1734. Whew. And the definition is to bewilder or confuse. All right, let's use it in a sentence. The private school that former First Lady Michelle Obama's brother's kids go to tried to bemuse staff, students, and parents by kicking Michelle's nephews out when they complained about racism. But we're not fooled. We know the game, folks. Okay, sentence number 2. Here we go. Ron DeSantis and the white supremacists think they can bemuse the public with their false cries about critical race theory. Again, we are not fooled, dear. That's your Slay Word of the Week, bemuse. It means to bewilder or confuse. Use it all this week in your convos and level up that vocab.
I'm Dr. Smith, CEO and founder of Tetragram, a mobile app for cannabis consumers to keep track of the products they purchase, rate the effectiveness of that product, and then share those personal reviews with others. I'm here today at Marion Main Dispensary in Capitol Heights, Maryland, owned and operated by my homegirl, Hope Wiseman. Please download the Tetragram app today and take control of your personal journey with cannabis.
Where are you? We are looking for you, and with the community's help, we're going to find you. 27-year-old Raja McQueen was last seen in her vehicle at a Cleveland, Ohio gas station in June of 2021. She was reportedly in the passenger seat of her 2018 silver Nissan Sentra. Raja is the mother of 2 sons. Raja McQueen is 5'7" tall, weighs about 135 pounds, has black or dark brown hair and brown eyes. Her car's license plate number is JGH3953. That is the license plate number for her silver Nissan Sentra. That plate again, JGH3953. Crime Stoppers is offering a $5,000 reward. Call Cleveland Police at 216-623-5418. That number again, 216-623-5418, if you have any information about Raja McQueen's disappearance. Where are you, Raja McQueen? We are looking for you, and with the community's help, we're going to find you. All right, we are back with the International Report with Dr. Inyang Ebon-Harstrup, who is talking to us about Ukraine and the just surprising problems that war in Ukraine is causing around the world. Welcome, Edie.
Thank you, Carol. Yes, I had once read an article about the impact that the potential war, at that time it was a potential war, now it is a real war, that Russia has launched on Ukraine would have on a number of countries in the developing world. And I found an article today that comes out of the United Nations that I wanted to share with you, because basically what is happening is because of the war in the Ukraine, countries in the developing world that import wheat, import oil, import gas, and have outstanding debt are in real trouble, because the price of these items have gone up so substantially that what poverty problems they had, they're slipping further and further into the quagmire of these type of poverty problems. And so basically, the UN Secretary General has released a report, a recent report, saying that the war is supercharging a crisis in food, energy, and finance in poorer economies, struggling to deal with COVID-19 pandemic, climate change, and a lack of access to funding. So it's 1.7 billion that are going to be in this situation. And in fact, the number of countries, there's 69 countries with a population of 1.2 billion people that face this perfect storm. And they're significantly exposed to all three crises. They include 25 countries in Africa, 25 countries in Asia and the Pacific, and 19 countries in Latin America and the Caribbean. And really, there is not much you can do about it because the war is still ongoing. But what the task force is saying, there was a task force that produced the report. The task force is continuing to call on countries to ensure a steady flow of food and fertilizer through open markets, lift export restrictions, and direct surpluses and reserves to those in need. Let's see if they'll do it.
Yeah, and it's such an important point. Let's see what they do, because we want to make sure we're working with Ukraine, but we have to understand it's well beyond Ukraine what this problem is causing. Thank you so much, Dr. Inyang Ebon-Harstrup. As you know, she's the international correspondent who's been all around the world, tells you what's going on all over the world and how it impacts the United States and other countries. I'm Carol Angela Davis. Stay with me. Thank you, Edie.
Thank you, Carol.
We are back with Crypto Convos for the week. You know, there's a big question in the blockchain, shall we say, industry. Is crypto a currency or is it a security? And trust me, it matters. Lionel, I know you're here to tell us all about it.
Yep. Thanks for having me again, as always. So right now there's a couple different lawsuits that are in play, and they're looking like crypto is going to come out on top, is what they're saying. And we got a couple different ones. Kin had a settlement with their lawsuit that they actually ended up, it's settling, so they didn't technically win, but XRP is the other one that they have been battling for years. And there's been a couple different rulings and changes that have happened where it looks like here within the next couple months, XRP looks like that they're going to win, and then it will be released back into the market. And right now, you're not actually able to buy XRP on any of the major markets like crypto.com or Coinbase and those. You have to jump through a lot of different hoops and deal with different exchanges to get XRP. So they're saying that when this lawsuit is over and it gets released back into the wild, that will be a huge spike in the price of XRP. This is not financial advice. This is just information, that you can go ahead and take on your own and verify on your own as well. But there's also a couple different coins that I wanted to mention that they're tied to XRP, and that is Quant, HBAR, Algorand. These are all central banking coins, or what they're calling it. And these are the coins that the government is going to use for as a replacement for the SWIFT system that we use right now. But that's it. I'm Lionel with Blockchain Games, and I'll see you next week.
You know, and you, Lionel, somebody might wonder, why does it really matter? And of course, we know that crypto is growing up. It's becoming widely accepted. And we also know the securities industry is extremely highly regulated. So this could really, make a big change in the industry if XRP is determined to be a security, which means it will be regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission, or if it's a currency, in which case we really don't know, because we're finding out what's going to happen. Thank you so much. That's why Lionel's here for you, dear. That's why he's here for you. Lionel, the Builder Sap, thank you so much. I'm Carol Angela Davis. Stay with us. We got more. We'll be right back. We are back with the Ask Dr. K. Of course, we always end the show with YOU in mind. K is keeping you long, keeping your life long, keeping you strong, and keeping you healthy. Dr. K, I know you wanted to talk about carbohydrates today. It's an interesting topic.
I do. Carbohydrates is the primary source of nutrients and energy in the human body. It is responsible for the muscle function, the brain function, very important. But carbs have gotten a bad rap. And that's because we have good carbs and we have bad carbs. Good carbs are the fibrous carbs and the starchy carbs. Bad carbs are the sugary carbs. How do you know you're eating a bad carb? Well, you might be in the fast food line, you might be at the gas station store or the corner store, and you might be in the middle aisle of the supermarket, better known as the illness section of the supermarket. How do you know you have a bad carb? You have to read a label. And sometimes the label says fortified with. How do you know you're eating a good carb? You're in the produce aisle. You're eating fruit, you're eating vegetables, but you're also eating beans, you're eating nuts, you're eating lentils. These are carbs and they're very good for you. They do not promote diabetes. They do not promote obesity. They do promote your health and your longevity and optimal functioning of your body. So you want to stay away from the sugary carbs. You want to recognize that carbs are good. Good carbs are good. Fibrous carbs and starchy carbs is what we want. I advocate for the whole foods plant-based diet. This is the original diet of mankind. This is where we reach back into our African genome and eat what truly makes us survive. So we're getting back to our roots and eating what we're supposed to eat. So don't be afraid of carbs. Be very afraid of sugary carbs. Thank you. Ask Dr. K.
Dr. K, real quick, let me ask you this, because every time I turn around, I'm seeing some 40-year-old with some cancer that kills them in like 6 months. And it's really scary. And I'm wondering if you talk about that whole foods diet and how it could impact, I mean, we only have just about 30 seconds, but how it could impact, these kind of illnesses that just seem to keep cropping up.
Thank you. Well, all the research and everything is not known, but we do know that a high sugar diet, obesity, diabetes, these are actually carcinogens. They actually promote the development of cancer because they're inflammatory foods. So once again, when we stay in that produce aisle, we are in the wellness section of the supermarket, not the illness section, and we're promoting our health and preventing diseases.
Thank you so much. That's Ask Dr. K. She's keeping you healthy, and she's here every week to tell you how to live that long, productive life with good health. I'm Carol Angela Davis. For all of us here at Impact News, we thank you. We'll see you next week. And thank you, Dr. K.
Thanks for having me.